This is the 2021 Nissan Altima SR, which I believe stands for Sport Rally. This is the 2.5 liter version. This is not a turbo. If the car is a turbo, I believe it will say turbo right down here and VCR-turbo right there. And it's very obvious, obviously this one is not a turbo. Now this car is a rental from Enterprise Rent-A-Car. I've had this car for 5 days now and I've put almost 1,000 miles on it. So I thought I'd do a review and let you know what I thought of it after 5 days. Since this is the SR, it comes with 19-inch wheels, leather seats, sport seat with a little bit bigger bolster, this orange trim, which I think is awesome. It looks really good going around the car, throughout here, around the seats, on the door. Has a little bit of carbon fiber detailing. Also right here, which you can't actually really see it here in this light, but it's a nice touch. Also has the leather wrapped steering wheel and the gear shift knob, and of course the dash. And it has the flattened steering wheel. I don't know if they all have that, but this one does, and I like it. It also has the power seats. This car is actually really quite comfortable. I compare everything to my Mazda 6, and I was able to drive for hundreds of miles and no problem with the back, and I could sit for a long time without having to get out. So I was surprised at how comfortable it really was. Everything in the car is easily within reach. The cup holders are perfect. They're right where they need to be. This, I don't have to move my arm at all just to grab this. It's perfect. My Mazda 6, they're actually more up here, so you have to actually bend your arm a lot more to grab it. The controls are great. I like them. They're easy to reach. One thing I didn't like is the display is flat here, and I think with how close it is to me, it should be tilted to the side a little bit. I don't know that cars really do that, but compared to the Mazda design where the screen is farther back, this is just a little harder to see. The push button start, after 5 days, I still haven't gotten used to its positioning. It's right there, which isn't bad, but I'm so used to it always being here, and you either have a key or you have a push button right there, and having it down there, and it's really small. It's noticeably smaller than most start buttons that I've seen in cars. After the first day, I thought, oh, give me a couple days, I'll be able to get used to it. But I still get in the car and I have to think about where the start button is. The menu is pretty easy to use. It doesn't have a ton of features in it, which is nice. I don't like having a ton of things in here to have to sort through and figure out. It just takes too long when you're trying to find something. So it's really pretty simple. You'll see that my average speed was 49 miles per hour and average miles per gallon is 33.5 miles per gallon. It's pretty good. I drive pretty fast. I accelerate quickly, of course. So I'll have lower fuel economy than other people will. And this is after I found out how to use manual mode. Before, everything was in automatic, and I thought, well, I guess it doesn't have a manual mode. And the gas mileage was up in the 35.2 range. And I've gone down a little bit since I found out how to do manual mode. When I first got the car, I couldn't see anywhere where there was a manual mode. See here, you throw it in drive and you can't move it. So that's just how it is. You're stuck in automatic. But it does have paddle shifters, so in automatic you can change gears, which helped a lot, and I enjoyed that. But of course, when you're in automatic and you're shifting gears with the paddle shifters, as soon as the car thinks it's ready to change gears, it's gonna go back down again, especially when you're going uphill or you're trying to pass people. When the car is constantly changing the gear out of the gear that you want, it's really frustrating and annoying. So I started searching for something else, and I realized that there was this little button here. It's very much incognito. That's just a line. But if you push that button, when you're in drive, you'll see up here, the D puts an S next to it. So my assumption is that means sport. And so you can turn that on and off. It doesn't engage into this manual mode or sport mode until you've shifted gears yourself with the paddle shifters. Once you've done that, you can start using it in manual mode, but of course only from the paddle shifters because it doesn't shift from the gear shift. And then it'll hold whatever gear you are in. And then it really takes off. This thing accelerates much faster than my car. First gear doesn't. First gear seems to kind of be a little bit sluggish. Maybe that's because of the CVT, which of course I don't like that aspect of this car. One reason I would never buy this car. but the rest of it, it really takes off. And of course, it's not even the turbo. Once I found manual mode, I really started enjoying driving this car. Before, it was just really frustrating. The transmission's actually much better than I expected it to be, especially coming from a CVT. One thing I noticed about it was if I leave it in automatic, if I'm about to go and head up a hill, in most cars, just about every car I've ever driven, if I'm set at 80 miles an hour, the car will drop to 79, maybe 78 before it starts taking off and doing its own thing and getting back up to 80 miles an hour. This car was able to stay at 80 all the way up. Once in a while, if there was a lot of wind, it would drop down to 79 and then quickly get back up to 80. But otherwise, it really maintained its speed really well. One thing I did notice that was kind of scary as far as longevity of the car was in some instances when I'm heading up a hill, the car keeps revving. It'll go between, about 2,800 RPMs to 32, somewhere around there, just up and down, and it kind of freaked me out a little bit. And I was thinking, well, this, if it keeps doing this, CVT is not going to last very long, which is another reason to drive in manual mode more often, because you can control what your transmission is doing rather than have this thing revving back and forth, up and down. The more you're working your transmission, the faster it's going to wear out. So manual mode is what I enjoy driving the most because I believe it'll make my transmission last longer. You'll notice here my cruise control is not on. Now it's on. If you turn your cruise control on, when you turn the car off and turn it back on again, the cruise control should stay on. It drives me insane when it turns off. I go to use it because I use it all the time. Why should I have to turn it back on every time I start the car when I'm going to use it every time I start the car? That drives me crazy. Don't like that about this car. That aspect alone would make it very difficult for me to buy this car. That's how much it drives me crazy. This car does not have automatic temperature control. Why? This car has Apple CarPlay, which I love. It does not have wireless Apple CarPlay, which is fine, not a big deal. I plug my phone in to charge anyway because it doesn't have wireless charging. One thing I haven't liked about some cars with Apple CarPlay is once you're out of CarPlay and into some other menu, it's difficult to figure out how to get back into it. This one is actually really easy. So if you're on the main menu here and you click audio, then you can push CarPlay and you're there. So audio, you can go Apple CarPlay. It's on each of these menus. A lot of them you have to go to a couple different places before you can actually get back to CarPlay. And why? Just leave CarPlay on the main screen and make it easy to get back to it. The clock on the Altima menu is off on the right, and it just means you have to take your eyes off the road farther. There is one here, but depending on where the light is, sometimes the sun's coming in, sometimes you can't see that clock, and it's really small. And you still have to go under the steering wheel to see it, but right here, you're diverting clear over to the right to see it. If you use CarPlay, it's off on the left. Easy, just put it on the left for the whole menu. The visibility in this car is really good. There really aren't a lot of blind spots. The windows are big. There's a lot of visibility to see through those. This window is easy to see from right here. So that's all really nice. The problem is this mirror. So when you look back here, you can see the brake light, and it's right in front of the rear window, and it blocks the view of traffic behind you. It just really cuts down the visibility from this rear view mirror. So that's disappointing considering how much I can see everywhere else, and the rear view mirror that I look through all the time doesn't have enough visibility. The backup camera is pretty good. It's okay, but it's too dark. It's not that easy to see out there, and it's a little grainy. It's not as clear as some other backup cameras. There are some settings in here that you can change to clear it up, but I tried using those and it really didn't help a lot. Display settings here, I changed the brightness, I changed the contrast, tint, color, black level, all of it, and it really didn't improve it a lot. And especially in the morning when I'm backing out of my driveway, the sun is coming up over the mountains, and it just makes it so I really can't see out of the backup camera, so I end up using only mirrors after that. My Mazda 6, in the morning, I have no problem. Sun's coming in, I can still see out the backup camera, but with this, it's just too dark to see. Here's a tiny feature that really isn't a big deal, but I like this little pocket right here. I usually put my AirPods here, but my keys fit there perfectly. It's just nice for anything that's really small. This has USB and USB-C, so that's a plus. I like to see that. The gear shift is in perfect positioning. Once you put it in drive, you can just sit here and drive the whole time. There's no stretching. It's perfectly placed. Even if this had manual mode, it'd be really easy to shift up and down. This car has a ton of legroom. Getting in is easy. And I have lots of legroom here. I sit back pretty far in my driver's seat, and even so, I've got a lot of space. I've got a good 5 or 6 inches there. It's really nice. And in this other one, you can easily move that seat forward, and they've got tons of room. You also have USB and USB-C in the back for the back passengers. The trunk is huge. It has a ton of space back here. It looks like it's probably a little bit bigger than my Mazda 6, which I thought was huge. A lot of times the sunglass storage in the car is way too small, and it will only fit a flat pair of sunglasses. This one, on the other hand, fits a set of Oakleys just fine. This has push button lock and unlock, but in case you were wondering, it does not have walk-away lock. It does have a great spot to put my phone. However, up here, it slants because of the way that this push button start is designed. So up here it slants, and as you move, it's just going to slide over here where it is actually flat. Slightly annoying, not a big deal. If you're wanting a built-in garage door opener, tough luck. You're not going to get it. You'll have to get one of these instead. If you need to use the cup holder in the door, it's actually a good size. So a full-size thermal flask fits in there just fine. It kind of slides and scratches as it comes out a little bit, but it fits. Back seat's a little tighter, but it works. The driver's side, on the other hand, seems a little dangerous. It fits, but reaching in here while you're driving, maneuvering this out, is a lot harder than just pulling it out of here. The steering wheel controls are actually very easy to use, no complaints there. Pretty simple, pretty basic. I've seen some that are too complicated for what they should be. These are pretty straightforward. This trim level does not have automatic windows. Only the driver's side window is automatic. I don't know what trim level has it, but this one doesn't. So this is a good car. I've enjoyed driving it for the last 5 days. It's always nice to try something else. Well, it's not always nice. Sometimes it's miserable. But in this situation, it was nice. It's a good car. It drives fast. It accelerates fast. It's really comfortable to sit in for long distances. My boys loved it. They sat in the back and said, "This is awesome, Dad," because there's so much space for them. The seats are comfortable in the back. For me, this isn't a car that I would buy. There were a few things that the car is missing that I've got to have. Manual mode is one of them, where I can shift with the gear shift. Cruise control that stays on. A few of those types of things are must-haves for me in my own car. In my family car, not a huge deal. But in the car I drive every day with how much I drive, it's got to be exactly what I want. But for you, this may be exactly what you need, exactly what you're looking for, and I hope the video helped you. With that, click like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.